Hi, this is Free Thinking Through the Fourth Turning. I'm Sasha Stone.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi.
I'm John Wertheim. I'm Scott Pelley. Those stories and more tonight on 60 Minutes.
60 Minutes and the Collapse of the Empire. In a fourth turning, the old must die to make way for the new. Charles Manson famously said, "You can't kill me, I'm already dead." I thought about that quote as the 60 Minutes scandal erupted with a conversation between reporter Scott Pelley and newly hired producer Nick Bilton. From the New York Times, quote, "She's murdering 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley said. She does not love this place. She was brought in to kill it, and she's been doing exactly that." Mr. Pelley added, "She has no qualifications for her job. You have slender qualifications for this job. The changes that she's made at the evening news have been catastrophic. So why should we expect that any of this is going to be any better?" Mr. Bilton responded, "Well, I will show you. That is what I have to say. That is my plan over the next 2 weeks. I'll be meeting with everyone. I'm very excited to meet with everyone, yourself included," end quote. Needless to say, it didn't go exactly as planned. Several sanctimonious "don't you know who I am" statements later, Pelley was out. For podcast listeners, a tweet from Michael Tomasky. The firing of Scott Pelley will reverberate in American journalism history as a symbolic execution of the single most groundbreaking and successful news program in the annals of U.S. broadcast television. And a story from the New Republic, why the New York Times is wholly responsible for Barry Weiss's rise. And a tweet from Near Tandon, boycott CBS. And from Jim Acosta, when I called out Trump years ago for being a danger to democracy, a free press, the truth itself, I was accused of making myself the story and showboating. How did things turn out? Trump is all of those things. Tonight, the free press is very much in danger in America. Wake up. Off a tweet by Scary Larry, here's F-Face going full Hitler, calling the press the enemy of the people, because he's a miserable effing failure, and gets all butthurt if anyone asks a real question. But the child-raping sack of shit's got it all wrong. He is the enemy of the people. And from Bill Madden, by firing Scott Pelley, editor-in-chief of CBS News, Barry Weiss has single-handedly destroyed the most brilliant investigative news magazine in network history, 60 Minutes. Weiss exemplifies everything MAGA is about: ego, incompetence, and blithering idiocy. 60 Minutes isn't quite dead, but it is a relic of the past. In the 1990s, it was pulling in 20 to 30 million viewers. That dropped to 14 to 16 million in the 2000s. By the 2010s, it was down to 10 to 12 million. Now just 9 million people tune in every week in a country of 340 million. And much of that is due to the changes in technology, but still. There is no doubt that 60 Minutes, like all of legacy media, is trapped inside the same bubble that thinks Jimmy Kimmel's nightly monologue is still relevant, believes the Oscars still represent the majority of moviegoers, and that the New York Times has its finger on the pulse of everyday America. A tweet by Zach Sharf. Jimmy Kimmel rips the clowns at CBS News. Quote, "The Trump suck-ups at CBS fired a great and deeply respected journalist, Scott Pelley, from his job at 60 Minutes because he stood up for truth and integrity at a show that's been the gold standard for broadcast journalism for 57 years. Like so much of what we might call resistance-era culture, there doesn't seem to be a place for 60 Minutes in our culture now, beyond being a propaganda tool for the Democrats, which explains why so many of them feel a profound sense of loss now that Barry Weiss was brought in to give them a refresh. Pelley's statement to call out the new management at 60 Minutes was the hissy fit heard round the world. The irony is that his statement is itself bad journalism. He throws around serious allegations without offering any concrete examples. Quote, "There has never been anything in America like 60 Minutes. The Sunday tradition is the most successful program of any kind in history. For more than a decade, its innovative growth on every major online platform has extended its reach to countless millions around the world. This spring, at the end of our 58th season, 60 Minutes grew rapidly with an unheard of 9% jump in viewers on CBS. 60 has been the #1 program in America for decades, because our beloved audience finds integrity, quality, and humanity in our stories. When stewardship of the program passed to my colleagues and me, our responsibility was to expand energetically into a new age of media technology while preserving the values our audience expects. Now the new owner of our network is casting this legend aside, apparently to curry a moment of favor with the Trump administration. The waste is heartbreaking. Last month, 60 Minutes lost its DNA when our entire senior leadership and 2 of our best on-air correspondents were cruelly fired without cause. Good people were silenced because they stood up for our audience. They stood for fairness against the forces of political bias. They stood for professionalism against chaos. For my part, new management has instructed me to inject falsehoods and bias into a politically sensitive story. I've been told to include assertions that are unverified. To date, in every case, I have managed to ignore these instructions or refuse them. Recently, politicians have been invited to choose correspondents for interviews on the broadcast. Giving politicians control over 60 Minutes interviews is not how this is done. Finally, incompetence and unprofessionalism in the new management have wreaked havoc. In a case involving one of my stories, the entire program came within 19 minutes of not getting on the air at all. At 60 Minutes, we have fought harder than anyone knows to save the program that became an American icon. We owed that to millions of viewers. I'm deeply moved by the thousands of wishes we have received to keep up the good fight. Most of the men and women at CBS News are still in that fight. But now, the collapse of values at the top has become untenable. The leadership of 60 Minutes is no longer recognizable. The principles I hold dear are gone, and so I must leave as well. I depart after 37 years at CBS with one emotion: a heart brimming with gratitude for the men and women of CBS News, who encouraged and enriched my work, very often at the risk of their own lives. I pray for a day when those people and their ideals are honored again, a day when sanity, competence, and courage return. Scott Pelley. Pelley has since talked to the New York Times to explain what he means by some of this, but even still, these are all examples of his own bias, one he can't see and refuses to admit even exists. Instead, he insists that 60 Minutes is now showing bias simply by representing the other point of view.
What do you hope your departure does? What do you hope will happen now?
My hope is that the leadership of Paramount will say to themselves, okay, this isn't working. We have respected journalists saying that there is a thumb on the scale for one political party over another. And there's a subtle political bias that I've never seen at 60 Minutes before or at CBS News before. We can save this. It's possible to land this plane. But right now, CBS News, in my view, is on fire.
In the interview, he explains how Barry Weiss wanted him to portray the other side of the story in the killing of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. He says he did not think she drove her car into the officer, or that Preddy was in any way violent. And while that doesn't mean they should have lost their lives, there is no question that they were at war with federal officers in a way we've never seen since the last Civil War. His bias was front and center at a speech in 2025, where his mass delusions about what this country has become were laid bare. This guy was willing to give Barry Weiss a chance? Come on.
But in this moment, this morning, our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. The fear to speak in America. Power can rewrite history with grotesque, false narratives. They can make criminals heroes and heroes criminals. Power can change the definition of the words we use to describe reality. Diversity is now described as illegal. Equity is to be shunned. Inclusion is a dirty word. This is an old playbook, my friends. There's nothing new in this.
Already a legend in his own mind, Pelley is writing his own legacy now as a self-made hero who stood up to the fascist regime. A tweet from Variety, former 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley took to Instagram on Saturday to thank his fans for their support after the program's new executive producer fired him after an explosive confrontation. To all of you who have been so kind, you are the wind in my sails. So deeply grateful, Pelley wrote, along with a photo of him looking elated at the helm of his sailboat. Here is Michael Moynihan.
Scott Pelley is a pompous asshole. I'm sorry, but he's a pompous asshole.
Kind of a Simpsons character.
Yeah, with a jaw like this. Tell me how. It's like you're from Texas, dude. He lashed out at Nick Bilton,
the new boss of 60 Minutes.
Screaming at your boss in front of everyone, then leaking that to the press.
And Nick Bilton says, do you want to take this private? This seems like getting like a little heated right now. Yeah. And he's like, no, we're going to do this in public right now.
For me, you, and the New York Times. This guy just took a job. He's not an ideologue.
Right.
He has no background as being an ideologue. And he's like, you have no experience. Like, how dare you? Derating supersede general politeness to a new and berating them because you want to record it, send it to the New York Times, make a hero of yourself. You're not welcome here. It's like, you're not my real dad. It's like, okay, relax.
A Woketopia, if you can keep it. Some say 60 Minutes never recovered from its biggest scandal, when CBS Corporate forced the show to censor an interview with big tobacco whistleblower Jeffrey Wigand, as depicted in Michael Mann's brilliant film, The Insider.
More vested interests. Persons who will profit from this merger. Ms. Helen Caparelli, General Counsel of CBS News, $3.9 million. Mr. Eric Cluster, President of CBS News, $1.4 million.
Are you suggesting that she and Eric are influenced by money?
No, of course they're not influenced by money. They work for free. And you are a volunteer executive producer.
CBS does not do that. And you're questioning our journalistic integrity.
No, I'm questioning your hearing. You hear reasonable and tortious interference. I hear potential Brown and Williamson lawsuit jeopardizing the sale of CBS to Westinghouse. I hear shut the segment down, cut Wigand loose, obey orders, and f*** off. That's what I hear.
You're exaggerating.
I am? You pay me to go get guys like Wigand, to draw him out, to get him to trust us, to get him to go on television. I do. I deliver him. He sits, he talks. He violates his own fucking confidentiality agreement. And he's only the key witness in the biggest public health reform issue, maybe the biggest, most expensive corporate malfeasance case in U.S. history. And Jeffrey Wigand, who's out on a limb, does he go on television and tell the truth? Yes. Is it newsworthy? Yes. Are we gonna air it? Of course not. Why? Because he's not telling the truth. No, because he is telling the truth. That's why we're not going to air it. And the more truth he tells, the worse it gets.
You are a fanatic, an anarchist, you know that? If we can't have a whole show, then I want half a show rather than no show. But oh no, not you. You won't be satisfied unless you're putting the company at risk.
What are you? Are you a businessman or are you a newsman? Because that happens to be what Mike and I and some other people around here do for a living.
Lowell.
Put the corporation at risk? Give me a fucking break.
Lowell.
These people are putting our whole reason for doing what we do on the line.
Lowell.
What?
I'm with Don on this.
The Hollywood of today would never make a movie like that unless it somehow blamed Trump and the Republicans. Not only wouldn't they make it, but they couldn't make it. No one inside the empire would allow it because, contrary to their own mass delusions, the fascism was always coming from inside the house. All sticks of wood bound together as one, where no dissent is allowed. I look around now and I see relics of the old empire. They're frantic and wild-eyed. They're terrified that it all came crashing down. They don't know why America turned away, but I do. We never set out to build an empire. For us, it was riding the wave of new technology, new social media, new computer in our pockets, and a brand new president to bring us into the promised land. It was not Donald Trump's fault that our empire collapsed. It was the old cliche about how power corrupts. We acquired too much of it. Every company, institution, celebrity, movie studio, publishing house, and ordinary person has a social media platform. If you controlled social media, you could control them. Our public humiliation factory kept everyone in line, lest they be it on social media. That was true even before Trump won. But the tweak to the algorithm in 2017, Donald Trump becoming president and ruling over Twitter at the same time, sent those of us inside the empire into waves of uncontrollable mass hysteria. And many of them would never come out of it and are still locked in the spell of mass delusion that a fascist dictator, rapist, racist, criminal pedophile won the election in America not once, but twice. Somebody had to be lying. Pelley simply can't tell the story the other way because he can't see it. He's still inside of it. I see them now, those who bought the dream like I did, befuddled as to what to do next. They just want their power back, their empire, their utopia. Use fear, that always works, to drive lazy voters to the polls. Fear of what? Tax cuts for the rich? Fox News? No. Fear of the big things, the existential things like fascism and democracy. How do you even come back from that and make a pitch to the people that you should be put back in power to rule over a country you believe is under a Nazi occupation? How does Bruce Springsteen, Robert De Niro, Barbra Streisand, Katie Couric, Ellen DeGeneres, not to mention every single Democrat politician, come back from that? Maybe it's the effect of the internet on our brains, but the so-called resistance seems to have lost touch with the tangible reality of history, of what it looks like to fight real fascism, what the Nazis really were. When you can make any reality you want, why wouldn't you? They're fine with the guy who has a Nazi tattoo, because to them that isn't real. A tweet from Defiant L. Graham Plattner, we are going to win. And when we have won, when we have beaten back fascism, when we've saved democracy, when we've saved freedom, this time it needs to be a different kind of freedom. Of course, leave it to Selena Zito to do the job of a real journalist and remind us, quote, 82 years ago, nearly all of the men on the first few boats that landed on the beach in Normandy were dead before day's end. Sit with that for a while. Look at them. Really look at them. Look into their eyes. Many of them are boys. They are someone's son, someone's brother, someone's sweetheart, someone's father. They never came home. And every privilege, every convenience, every freedom, and every little thing you want to bitch about, you have because of them. And they paid the ultimate price for you to have those freedoms. Hashtag D-Day, hashtag freedom is never free. 70 to 80 million people died in World War II fighting to save the world from a fascist dictator a real one. How can these people live with themselves by spreading the lie that we're living through anything like that now? And that, more than anything, is why the empire collapsed. It was built on a foundation of delusions and lies. Barry Weiss and the Fourth Turning. I have Barry Weiss to thank for starting this Substack. Very few people had the courage or the moxie to stand up to the Twitter mob back in 2020, but she did. I was on Twitter the night the mob came for her. The screeching scolds had already been nipping at her heels at the New York Times after she was brought in to shake up the ideological chokehold the left had on the paper and still does. They hated her, gossiped about her, shunned her, and yet there she was, showing up anyway. She is built of stronger stuff than the kind of person who would ever crumple under the weight of the mob. Tom Cotton's essay, Send in the Troops, reflected the views of most Americans that if the riots over the summer could not be controlled, the military should be brought in. Their opinions did not matter to the mob or apparently to the New York Times. And while 60 Minutes spent many stories on January 6th, they barely touched the riots in the summer of 2020. They didn't talk about the false narrative of Jacob Blake in Kenosha. That was left to local reporters.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm very sorry about that, man.
Armed with nothing but a fire extinguisher, 70-year-old Robert Cobb tried to defend his friend Sue's shop from a group of arsonists and looters Monday night.
They just threw a bottle at this guy.
The whole thing was caught on camera. We want to warn our viewers, it's difficult to watch. Fresh from a double bypass surgery, Robert was standing guard until someone punched him so hard in the face that he collapsed to the sidewalk.
I can't. I can't. And I can't even think about how bad it could have been. I mean, it's bad enough. They broke his jaw.
Robert playfully dodged our cameras most of the day because he said he wants the story to be about how much the Kenosha community loves his friend Sue. It's funny because Sue said the story is about Robert's bravery. Either way, their reunion was beautiful.
They never told the other side of the story because no one did until Barry Weiss tried and was smacked down in a way that woke me up. It was like the lantern dropping out of the sky in The Truman Show.
Good morning!
Morning! Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.
Morning, Truman.
Morning, Spencer. Hey, Pluto. Oh, no. Get down.
He won't hurt you.
Get down. Yeah, I know. It's just me.
Come on, Pluto.
It punctured the delusion at long last, and I realized I was not getting the truth from the legacy media. They were lying to us and gaslighting us because Trump had to lose the election and nothing else could matter. But the truth still mattered to me, and it mattered to Barry Weiss. Eventually, she would launch a Substack revolution with the Free Press and urge others to follow her, and so I did. Weiss is a millennial, the generation that's to take the baton from the baby boomers per the book The Fourth Turning. You can see this unfolding everywhere, but perhaps nowhere as profoundly as with what happened at the Times, and now at 60 Minutes. Here is how the Times' Lulu Garcia-Navarro's interview with Pelley went on how he came to know Barry Weiss. Garcia-Navarro. Ellison then hires Barry Weiss to run CBS News. Weiss is a former opinion writer at the New York Times who left to start her own publication after claiming bias in the Times opinion section. I never worked with her, for the record. The Free Press, which is launched, is generally pro-Israel and bills itself as pushing against what it sees as the mainstream media. What did you make of her appointment? Pelley. I was not familiar with her name, so I did some research and discovered those things that you just outlined. What concerned me was that she had zero television experience and had never managed a large global operation like CBS News. Those were red flags to me, but I thought, David Ellison thinks she's the right person for the job. We're absolutely going to welcome her, listen to her, and give her the benefit of the doubt." End quote. Yeah, sure, pal. That sounds like padding for an upcoming lawsuit, not the truth. There is no way the Scott Pelley who gave that speech at Wake Forest is going to give someone hired by David Ellison the benefit of the doubt. That he had never even heard of Barry Weiss or had no idea that any scandal had erupted at the Times over the Tom Cotton op-ed says it all. The fourth turning is like winter. The old must die to make way for the new. Trump didn't collapse the empire on his own, but he's a great champion all the same. The one baby boomer who could tear it all down to make way for the millennials like Barry Weiss, to reshape the future for generations to come. MAGA. In 2020, I escaped the doomsday cult our empire had become and was searching for signs of life, for truth, for something that felt real. I began driving across the country and saw an America that people like me had forgotten even existed. It wasn't a virtual world where we make our own reality. It was a tangible place with things people built with their own hands. It was farms, churches, town squares, neighborhoods, highways, and factories. What we built online had no place for this America. And if you never understand that, you'll never understand MAGA. From the hills, the backyards, and the fields, one name called out from this forgotten America: Trump. For podcast listeners, pictures of Trump signs I've taken on my trips across country. Even now in 2026, these signs still stand, and not just in one state, in nearly every state. 2 more pictures I've taken of Trump signs. Trump is not in power because he's a fascist. He's in power because we the people put him there to fight for us against the mighty empire that was like a black hole, sucking all of American society into it. Anyone who thinks Barry Weiss would do Donald Trump's bidding at CBS News is living in a fantasy. They don't know her, they don't know him, and they most certainly do not know this country anymore. It doesn't seem like it's asking too much for guys like Scott Pelley to snap out of it at long last and to realize that this is a big country with lots of different kinds of people in it, and all of them have the same right to representation. And if the culture stopped speaking to them, and the government stopped representing them, well, it's all over but the shouting. Thank you for listening to my podcast, sashastone.com. Yes, I'm still on my road trip. I'm just coming into Nebraska and heading home. I'm sorry these podcasts have been a little too few and far between, but it's harder than you might think to go from place to place and still have mental energy to write anything semi-coherent. And if you like my work, you can always go to the main page, sashastone.com, and scroll down where you'll see a link to the tip jar, or you can become a paid subscriber. It helps my morale to know that so many people appreciate my work enough to pay for it, even though it's free. But I will be posting a paywalled version of my travel log very soon. I hope you had a great weekend, and remember, to thine own self be true.
Call me love and dad. I'll rock 'em, roll 'em all night long. I'm a 60-minute man. If you don't believe I'm all I say, come up and take my hand. When I let you go, you'll cry. Oh yes, he's a 60-minute man. There'll be 15 minutes of kissing. Then you holler, please don't stop. Don't stop. There'll be 50 minutes of teasing, and 50 minutes of squeezing, and 50 minutes of blowing my top. If your man ain't treating you right, come up and see old Dan. I'll rock 'em, roll 'em all night long. I'm a 60-minute man. 60-minute man. Call him the loving Dan. I'll rock, roll all night long. I'm a 60-minute man. 60-minute man. They call me loving Dan. I'll rock 'em, roll 'em all night long. I'm a 60-minute man. There'll be 15 minutes of kissing. Then you holler, please don't stop. Don't stop. There'll be 50 minutes of teasing, and 50 minutes of squeezing, and 50 minutes of blowing my top. If your old man ain't treating you right, come up and see old Dan. I'll rock 'em, roll 'em all night long. I'm a 60-minute man, oh yeah.